Open your books at page 242. It is next lesson, and it is again a next traveling of Ibn Battuta, and the title of the lesson is A Chinese Conjurer. Conjurers are the magicians who perform magic tricks. We will read the text. Ibn Battuta traveled to China and entered the gigantic, means big city, of Al-Khansa, now called Hangzhou. The great Amir Korte, the supreme ruler of China, entertained him with a feast and singing and celebration on the canal. When Ibn Battuta traveled to China, he visited a great and splendid city of Al-Khansa, which is now called Hangzhou. The ruler of the China entertained and honored him with a grand feast and singing on the bank of canal. A large number of ships assembled. Assembled means gathered on the canal with colored sails and silk awnings. Awnings are, we can say, kind of a sheet which is made up of canvas or some other material. And the ships were painted with great skill. They attacked one another, throwing oranges and lemons. In the evening, we returned to the Amir's house and spent the night there. The musicians came and sang all kinds of attractive songs. That night, a conjurer was present. Many ships with colorful sails were gathered there. They were assembled there. Ships were painted with beautiful colors. At evening, Ibn Battuta went to Amir's house and spent the night there. Musicians and singers were also there. They sang many songs and amused Ibn Battuta and his companions. At night, conjurer was also present there, and he entertained them with his tricks. Come to text. The conjurer took the upper line. The Amir said to him, "Show us some of your tricks." The conjurer took a wooden ball in which were holes through which were long cords. He threw it up and it rose till it disappeared from the side. So we were now in the courtyard. When only a little of the cord was left in his hand, he ordered his apprentice to cling. Apprentice means helper. Cling means to stick. To cling to it and climb up until he disappeared. Then in these lines, he tells that when Ibn Battuta was in the court of the Amir, he saw that there was a magician and he was performing tricks. Magician took out a wooden ball. There were some holes in it, and through these holes some ropes were passing. He threw this ball up and it rose very high, and then it disappeared from the side. He asked one of his helper to cling to the rope and climb up. He began to climb till it disappeared from the sight of the people. The conjurer called to him 3 times and he did not answer. Then he took a knife in his hand as if he were infuriated. Infuriated means in great anger, in extreme anger, and climbed up the cord till he too disappeared. Then he threw down to the ground the youth's hand, then his foot, then his other hand, then his other foot, then his trunk, then his head. Then he came down panting. Panting means when someone is out of breath. And his robe means dress, blood stained. He kissed the ground in front of the Amir and spoke to him in Chinese. The conjurer actually called his helper thrice but got no answer. Then he took the knife in his hand and climbed up the cord till he also disappeared from the sight of the people. Then he threw young man's hand then his foot, then his other hand, then he threw down his other foot, then the trunk of the man, and then his head. Then the conjurer himself came down, and his dress was all blood stained. Then he bowed down and he kissed the ground, and he talked to the Amir in Chinese. The Amir told him to do something, and the conjurer took the youth's limbs, attached them to each other, kicked them with his foot, and he stood up intact. Intact means complete. I was amazed at this and suffered palpitation. Palpitation means irregular beating of heart. Palpitation of the heart. Then they poured out a medicine for me, which relieved me. Relieved means feeling of relaxation. A man was at my side and said, "Do not be alarmed." Alarmed means frightened. There was no climbing up and down or cutting off the limbs. It is all conjuring. Well, in this part we have learned that Amir asked the magician to do something. So the conjurer took the young man's limbs, attached them to each other, then kicked them with his foot, and they all saw that young man was standing there, unified, in complete body form. He was present there. Ibn Battuta was amazed on it, and his heart started beating very fast. People who were present there, they gave him a medicine which relieved him, but still but we can say that still he was in great shock. A man who was sitting by his side, he said that Ibn Battuta must not be amazed, as there was no climbing up or down and cutting of the limbs. It was all a magic, or all a magic, we can say a kind of magic trick of conjurers. So lesson is complete. Now come to next page. Here we have 7 questions, and we will do one by one them in the copy. You have to write down in the copy. First one is, what happened to the ball with cords attached to it, which the conjurers threw up into the air? Answer is, the ball kept rising up until it disappeared from sight. Question number 2, what did the apprentice do? The apprentice clung to the cord and climbed up until it disappeared. Question number 3, what did the conjurer do when the apprentice did not answer? He took a knife in his hand as if he was infuriated and climbed up the cord till he too disappeared. Question number 4, what do you think was the most grisly? Grisly means something which is relevant to horror, which is related to horror. So the question is, what do you think was the most grisly part of the conjurer's show? The answer is, when he threw the young man's limbs and then himself came down with his robe bloodshed. That was the most grisly part of the trick. Question number 5, what did the conjurer do after the Amir told him to do something? The Amir told him to do something, and the conjurer took the youth's limbs, attached them, kicked them with his foot, and the apprentice stood up intact. Question number 6, how was Ibn Battuta affected by the conjuring tricks? Answer is, Ibn Battuta was amazed at this, and his heart began to beat very fast. Last question, how many words for different parts of the body can you find in the text? Answer is hand, foot, trunk, head, limbs, and heart. So write down all these questions and answers in your copy.